Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Just drinking some coffee here. How's everybody doing today? Just waiting on some people to join us here. How's it going? White whale fishing. Well, howdy. Howdy. How's it going today, man? You been fishing? I went fishing this morning with a good friend. We went down to the creek and he ended up catching a rock bass and a spotted bass. And I caught one smallmouth. Pretty nice smallmouth for the creek. But that water was cold and it was in the upper 30s when I got up this morning. So it was pretty chilly. Pretty chilly. Hey, Gina, how's it going? Up in Michigan. Pier, one perch, one largemouth. Sweet. Gina, I watched your video. This morning when I got up. That's pretty awesome. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen Gina Walters, she's very inspirational. I don't get to watch as often as I'd like, but when you watch her, she's very inspirational. Thanks for dropping in on one of my lives. I love your Facebook picture with you and your husband, Neil. That was pretty sweet. Where he's kissing you on the shoulder. Seems like Neil be a pretty good dude to hang out with, have a beer with. Well, so you caught 2 fish white whale fishing. Well, Gina, just, you know how to push that button, do a live stream. Don't take much. I'll tell you a funny story. I have a cat here that stays in the garage. Hey, Tyler. Yes, I did see when you caught a fish. Drop shot and rooster tail. Heck yeah. I got a mama cat here. It's got 3 small ones, and she likes to catch mice. And she'll bring them in here for the small ones. And I think she thinks she's trying to feed them. But they don't eat it. They just play with it. And it ends up staying in here and getting stinky in the garage. Yeah. Yeah, catching a fish will get your adrenaline pumping. But she brings them in here and then they end up playing with them. But anyway, she's killed about 10 chipmunks over the past week and brought them in here. And yesterday morning, one of the small ones had a mouse in its mouth. And I picked the little kitten up and tried to get the mouse out and couldn't. So I ended up sticking his head in a bucket of water and he let go of the mouse so I could get it and dispose of it so they don't leave it here in the garage and make it stink. Ugh. But yeah, and today I come out here in the garage and the mom is sitting here with a whole squirrel. She had caught a whole squirrel and was sitting here and drug it in here. Then the squirrel was dead, so I had to get the squirrel from her and go take it and dispose of it down in the woods. What a mess. Anybody want a cat? We'll be giving away some cats. She drug a whole squirrel. In fact, the squirrel was as big as she was, and she's a full-grown mama cat. So we've had some excitement around here. So Gina, it's Sunday morning there, right? Those of you who don't know, she's from Melbourne, Australia. 9:14 Sunday morning, yep. See, it's still Saturday evening here. And I know it's getting to be spring where you're at, but Yeah, you're already into the future. It's getting to be spring where she's at, and fall's just now kicking in here. Our leaves are starting to turn, and nights are getting down upper 30s, lower 40s. That'd be Fahrenheit for those of you from Australia. Yep, Southern Hemisphere. One of these times when it's winter here and really, really cold, I'm gonna take a trip to Australia where it's summertime, or maybe South America. Marcus Rutledge, Jersey, Georgia. I have a feeling you know my daddy, because I know a bunch of Rutledges went to church with him down there when he pastored. Marcus Rutledge. Yeah, I just can't place you. Just can't place you. Jersey, Georgia. I'll tell you something pretty neat. The place I used to work, we had a guy come in to do an air quality test. Since you're in here, Marcus, you'll appreciate this. Guy come in to do an air quality test in the plant, and this has probably been 4 or 5 years ago. And he had a University of Georgia belt buckle. And I said, "Oh, you're from Georgia." And he started talking to me, and I could tell by his accent that he was from Georgia. You know, he said things like Dr. Pepper and breakfast. And what else? Oh, ice water. Want a glass of ice water? They have that distinct Georgia accent. So anyway, started talking to him, and I said, "My dad pastors or used to pastor in Georgia." And he said, "Really, where at?" I said, "Well, you probably wouldn't know where it was at. It's a little place called Jersey, Georgia." He said, "You gotta be kidding me." And I said, "No." He said, "I was born and grew up in Jersey, Georgia." He said, "I think he lived in Covington, Georgia at the time." But he said, "Yeah," he said, "I grew up in Jersey, Georgia." And I told him where the church was, and he knows right where it's at. And so all the way up here in Indiana, and just come to be that it was a small world that day. He was all the way up here. Yep, Marcus. You love our accents? Well, we like your accents too. Of course, yours isn't completely Australian. It's more English, isn't it? Oh, and another thing, Gina, I was watching your video this morning, and your maiden name's McKinnon. I'm thinking that has some Irish roots in it, maybe? I've always loved the history of names, surnames, last names, and of course mine's Scottish, German. I think Scottish, but it's more German. Yeah. Yep, English accent. And McKinnon is Scottish, huh? Mac Jig, you have no accent? I'd say you probably do. From New York. I'd say you probably do. What part of New York are you from, Mac Jig? Northern, southern, eastern, western? Because each part of that state has different accents. Rochester. Do you keep fishing creeks into the fall, white whale? Where do the fish go? Deep holes? Wood? Well, I tell you what. This is the first year that I fished. Oh, Lake Ontario. Okay. This is the first year that I fished creeks in the fall. I started fishing a couple of weeks ago. It was tough. I caught 2 really, really small fish, and there wasn't really much action at all, but went this morning, and it was probably 40 degrees when we got there. And so it was chilly. I mean, I was wearing a hoodie. And we did catch some fish. I caught some smallmouth. Of course, smallmouth's cold water fish anyway. But the creek's also really, really low. And when it gets really, really low like this, it gets really clear and it's even harder to catch them. I mean, I stood on the bank and watched a 2-pound smallmouth bass swim by, and I couldn't get him to. Yep. Tyler here in the chat, he's the one that went with me this morning. He caught, I put him a swirltail, white swirltail grub on, and he caught a rock bass right off the bat, and then he caught a really small spotted bass. And they was around structure because there's some logs laying there in the water, and he caught them right off a structure. Now the smallmouth that I caught, we had went up on around the corner, and I didn't catch it around structure, that smallmouth, but I did catch it in the channel of the creek. You know, you'll have the shallow parts of the sides, and then it was a pretty narrow part of the creek, and there was a channel there. So I threw it up, you know, close to the other side and pulled it down, pulled my lure down through there. I don't even remember what. Oh, it was just a little swim bait. It was just a little yellow swim bait. In fact, hang on, I'll show you. If I still have it on here. Yeah, right here. Right here. This little, just a little yellow swim bait right here. That's what I caught that smallmouth on this morning. And I will say that the bite wasn't as normal as it usually is. It was a pretty slow bite. You know, in the summertime, when the creek's running a little faster and the water's warmer, those smallmouth will just, I mean, they will just hammer that bait. And that wasn't the way it was today. I seen him come after it. I mean, he came after it pretty fast, but he just bumped it. In fact, I was showing Tyler this morning, when I caught him, I was taking the hook out of his mouth, and I mean, I just barely got, so he swiped at it more than he bit it. So I was kind of lucky to get him. But anyway, the creek was so clear that we were standing there, and I could see bass swimming by. But usually, if they can see you standing on the bank, you can throw anything in front of them, and they're not going to bite it. It's somehow they know. I guess they're pretty smart. So yeah, that smallmouth wasn't around structure, but the spotted bass and the rock bass that Tyler caught was around some structure. Now I will say it's par for the course. Taking a friend to my fishing spot and then they outfish me. Does that happen to anyone else? Yeah, we tried a white swirltail grub. I threw a Rebel Teeny R for a little while. I threw those little boot tail swim baits that I'd bought from Walmart a few videos ago. The cheap little box of them, that bright yellow one. And I think Tyler threw some boot tail swim baits, and he threw some white swirly tail grubs. So that's what we caught them on this morning. We probably spent 2 hours fishing. There was about 3 different holes. Since the creek's so low, you can't really fish the whole creek. You just kind of have to go from deep hole to deep hole to deep hole. And yeah, we left some there. In fact, the creek has some of those sucker fish, and I could see them swimming on the bottom, but it's very, very rare for you to catch one of those sucker fish on a lure. Most of the time you'll catch them on a night crawler because they're more of a bottom feeder. This is fun. Anybody got any more questions? Besides you, Tyler, you can just text me. Boy, that's the truth. Marcus says, your good friend, your good friend or your child will outfish you every time. That's the way it works with me. Yeah, that's why you won't take nobody fishing with you. Marcus, y'all have some smallmouth down there, don't you? I know the northern part of Georgia has some beautiful creeks. Beautiful clear creeks. It's just full of smallmouth bass. Y'all also have those Coosa bass. Yep. Up in the hills. Now, one thing I remember about Georgia folks is anybody that lives there calls the north part of the state North Georgia, and they call the south part of the state South Georgia, and they say it like it's two different states. So, especially there around Atlanta, people talk about South Georgia and North Georgia. But I don't know if you've seen, because I don't bass fish much, but I'm a catfish guy. Oh yeah. In fact, I've been seeing folks catch catfish, and I've been thinking about going down the river. I live pretty close to the river here. I've been thinking about going down the river and doing some catfishing. So we'll have to see how that pans out. I know in the fall, that's usually a fish to target. But yeah, if you've seen John from Creek Fishing Adventures, when he come here to fish with me, if you check out his channel, he's right there close to Cleveland, Tennessee, and he goes down in Georgia and fishes a lot there in North Georgia, and there's some beautiful, beautiful creeks there. One of these days, I'm gonna get down there. I'm gonna do it. I think it started raining here. I think I hear rain. It's good because we haven't had rain in about 6 weeks. Anything measurable, that is. Well, I'm gonna hop off here. I'm glad you guys stopped in today. I hope y'all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Y'all remember us in your prayers. Remember our nation in your prayers. And Lord knows we all need it. Y'all take care, and we'll see you guys later.